We've all heard of Trappist monks brewing beer, but what's that really all about? Let's find out. Monasteries have been around for centuries. One of the fundamental credos is that they should be self-contained and independent. To be able to do that, though, they need to make their own food and drink. So how does beer come into play? Well, beer is made with essentially the same ingredients as bread, so it's allowed. In fact, beer usually offered nutrition to the monks at times of fasting, thus the importance of beer to the monastery. To be labeled a Trappist beer, it must be made inside the monastery walls. Now that doesn't mean your beer is made exclusively by monks. They're allowed to employ workers from outside the abbey if needed, and most actually do. The goal of selling beer commercially was and remains to this day to aid to their charitable work. Any profits from their beer goes to fund their charitable works and programs, or to make improvements to the brewery. Everyone wins. Some of the most famous Trappist monasteries are in Belgium. Chimay, Orvel, Westmalle, Roquefort, Westerleven, Aachen, La Trappe is in Netherlands. In fact, there's even one now in North America. In 2014, one started in Massachusetts. It's called the Brothers of St. Joseph's Abbey. That might be a cool road trip. So what makes a Trappist beer different than other beers? Trappist ales are almost always made with a large addition of candy sugar, which is very fermentable and allows the yeast to produce much higher alcohol levels than we would typically find in an ale. This was done originally because higher alcohol beers take longer to spoil. Let's look at some of the styles of Trappist beers. You may have seen in the old cartoons they show it X or XX on old whiskey barrels and stuff. Well, that actually originated from the Trappist breweries. The number of X's told you what style the beer was. So the first one, 1X, is called Pater's beer or Father's beer or Enkel or Single. Geez, there's a lot of names. It's usually a really light color and low ABV, usually under 5% for sure. Sometimes these are designated by the brewery as blonde, or 5 or 6, or even gold in some cases. Originally made from reusing the mash, or sparging again and brewing that sparge separately, this was kind of like the lawnmower beer for the monks, their daily, all-day drink. Remember, back then, beer was also safer to drink than water hundreds of years ago. So that kind of makes sense. The second style is a double, or double. It's usually an amber to copper color, 6 to 9% ABV, dark fruit and caramel flavors. The next one is called a triple. It's usually lighter in color and deep gold color, 7.5 to 10% ABV. It usually is a little bit spicier, banana and fruity in flavor. Quad, the big one, deep red and brown color, 10 to 13% ABV. It's usually very malty and spicy yeast and caramel, molasses, dark fruits, maybe even dried fruits. Some people think that the name double or triple or quad refers to the level of alcohol or grain that goes into it. Wrong. As you can now see, it's merely just a way to distinguish the different styles of beer. In some Trappist breweries, the yeast they use has been bred and cultured for centuries, and they're some of the main reasons that Trappist beers taste like they do as well. The yeast produces a very fruity ester and spicy phenolics, which is perfectly offset by the malt bill and the higher alcohol content. Now, you might be asking, this is all really interesting, Seth, but I'm not planning a trip to Belgium anytime soon, so how am I ever going to try these beers? Well, lucky for us, LCBO usually has a few of them, but they're also sometimes available at high-end bottle shops. We're lucky to have one in town. I know sometimes when you're shopping for beer, you just want to buy a beer you know you will like. Sometimes these beers scare you off. Give them a try. Make these a sharing beer with friends. Make it a special occasion by trying something new. I bet you'll like at least one of these styles. Make sure they end up in your cart the next time you see them. Cheers.